Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Boardroom, where, as always, we are live for a conversation with some of Malta's leading business minds. We are live on Facebook at the moment, so if you have any questions for our interviewees as they come onto the show, please do add them below. But as always, this can be streamed back on who'swho.mt, Malta's leading business platform. Now, today's conversation is hosted by Epic for Business, and it's going to be a conversation about digitization and the transformation that we can continue to expect in the months and years to come that help to keep our businesses connected. I think more than ever before, we've understood the importance of great connectivity. And this will be a conversation with three leading business minds to help us understand the trends and the importance of connectivity, and also what you as business people out there can do to make sure that you stay connected. So my panel today is absolutely fantastic. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Tamas Banyai. He's the CEO of Epic. Simon Naudi, he's the CEO of the Corinthia Group, and Stanley Bugeja, the MD of DC Aviation Malta. Thank you all so much for being with me on the Boardroom. Great to have you. Of course, connectivity is such a critical topic to all of your businesses and to pretty much every business in the world now. It's hard to think of a business that isn't somehow touched by connectivity. And Tamas, I'd love to come to you first, just for a little bit of insight about how digital transformation sort of has changed in recent years, and how important connectivity with mainland Europe and the rest of the world has been for Maltese businesses.
Yeah, I think first of all, thank you, Joe, and good afternoon, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be part of this panel, and I also would like to thank our guests for accepting our invitation this afternoon. And for Epic, connectivity and digital services are at the heart of what we do. And we've been around as a business for over 30 years, and we have always been about connectivity. And we've been famous for our international roaming services. We have expanded into mobile, into fixed services, and bandwidth, and not only locally, but connecting businesses on an international scale as well. So we provide connectivity to mainland Europe and to the rest of the world as well. Obviously, during the past year, we have all seen how critical these services have become for businesses. And while some businesses saw the pandemic having a negative impact on them, we also would like to invite businesses to think about the potential which this has brought about with the digitalization. Because being remote means everyone is remote. And that means for businesses who had been on the negative end of being remote, now it's an opportunity to open into new markets, new services, new clients, rethink their business models, and turn it into a growth opportunity. And Epic's vision about the future and digitalization is about enabling businesses to improve the customer service, to enable businesses to rethink the business models, to run on a more efficient model and with a growth mindset.
Very interesting start there, Tamas, and sort of great insight from you there about Epic and what you've been up to. And Simon, I'd love to come to you now for a little bit of insight on your end. Obviously, primarily operating in the tourism space, how has the Corinthia Group, digitally transformed in recent years, and how important is connectivity for you between Malta and the rest of the world?
Thank you, Joe, and thank you, Tamas, and thank you for welcoming us to this boardroom. And on our side, I think we should welcome Tamas to Malta. I believe you're here just for a few months now, so welcome. And obviously your company is a key company to us and to many others in Malta, because we are an island here, and in any case, we need connectivity to the rest of the world. More so for companies like ours, who are headquartered in Malta but have a global actual operation. So as you know, we operate and own and are developing hotels in the United States, in Russia, in Europe, in the UK, in the Gulf, in Africa. So operating that kind of network in terms of infrastructure from Malta means that it is one of the key considerations for us to continue to be in Malta, which we have been since we were launched 60 years ago as a business, is the connectivity of our island. Otherwise, quite honestly, we'd have to think of relocating, because which is certainly not something we'd love to do. We are all from Malta, so your company plays. I'm trying to put a lot of responsibility onto you here, Tamas, in terms of satisfying our technological needs. The hotel industry you can say has been entirely transformed by digitization. And the clever ones were the ones who recognized this early, up front, including especially the Americans, you know, who were always one step ahead. Anything other than your actual stay in a hotel has been digitized. So how hotel companies market to you, how you respond to that marketing, how you interact, how you make your bookings. And just think of that as consumers. 10, 20 years ago, you would book a holiday or a trip 6 months before, a year in advance it could be. Nowadays, you could get on a plane tonight and be in a hotel tomorrow because of the ease with which that side of the business has been transformed, which really creates entirely new ways of running the business in terms of forecasting, in terms of preparing yourself for what sort of demand you have in your hotels. And I'm just picking really on one small part of the hotel industry. Even when you are in a hotel, the digital side to it is key. I mean, besides obviously your own connection to the internet and casting your own content onto the TV screens in your room, but the way hotels work today as buildings, like most buildings, but hotels tend to be very complex buildings, is entirely dependent on digitization, both in the back of house and in the staff and how the staff manage the building, and also in the way guests use the building. You know, in terms of nowadays, we're talking of taking this one step further, yeah, and therefore transferring control of the bedroom to you on your phone, rather than have to use all these, let's call them old-fashioned switches, or not. I mean, how far do people want to go? You know, how far will the consumer want to go down this road? Our experience is at the end of the day, look at the 15-year-olds and the 13-year-olds, and that's where you'll be in 10 years' time, whether you like it or not. So this is a journey which has transformed the hotel industry, certainly for the better, for the more efficient, and therefore we are entirely reliant as a company running from Malta, an international network, on the connectivity of our island. Entirely reliant on that.
Absolutely. Well, great to hear. I mean, some really interesting insights there, Simon, about how, things we don't even think about could potentially change because of digitization. And to think back how complicated travel was before digitization, it's hard to even imagine. So we have connectivity to thank for that ease of travel now. And speaking of ease of travel and how, other aspects of the industry have been impacted, Stanley, I'd love to hear, obviously you represent the aviation industry in this conversation. How has digitization changed for your company?
First of all, thank you, Joe and Tamas, for inviting me, and I'd like to join Simon and welcoming Tamas to Malta. And Tamas, sorry to add to the pressure, but unfortunately, like Simon, we're also an international organization. Where purely it's the management side which resides in Malta, and all of our assets are spread throughout the globe. So, connectivity is definitely key, and unless our infrastructure works really well, exactly like Simon said, we would have to rethink our base. Thankfully, so far so good, thanks to Tamas and his network as well. So digitization in the travel industry, like in the hotel industry, in the aviation industry, has been key, and has been key for ages. By nature of our business, we're all about connectivity ourselves. We're the mechanical side, getting from A to B. In business aviation, it's a little bit more complex, possibly than airlines, because we do not have a schedule. In fact, 99% of our flights are city pairs, which are not connected by airlines. So we never really know in a week's time where our crew are going to be, where we need to have our engineer and what's not. So we need to be connected to where our aircraft is. Likewise, our clients connected to us, whichever part of the world they are. So connectivity is really important, and digitization has been part of the way of doing our business for a very long time. Aviation is a very very fast moving industry. I mean, nowadays we have engines talking to us on a regular basis, telling us what is the temperature of the engine, talking to me in the office, well, my engineers, temperature of the engine, revolutions, and whatnot. The cockpits, not only the cockpits are connected with airports, with traffic controllers, but even the cabin itself. You know, nowadays you have live streaming of news networks on board, Netflix, doing boardroom conferences like this one from the air. So yeah, it's been key, and I expect for this to continue, because there is no other way.
Absolutely. Well, thank you there for that insight, Stanley. I appreciate it. And I'll come back to you now, Tamas, for a little bit more about Epic for Business and Epic in general, but your recent tech developments. What's changed lately in the connectivity space?
We have been investing heavily with our new shareholders in the past 12 months, and we have kicked off a complete mobile network modernization program, which means that basically we are modernizing all of the mobile network technology which Epic has, and this includes all the legacy technologies as well. So 2G, 3G, 4G, and adding 5G as the cherry on the cake on the top. But the fact that we are doing it as a full modernization means that all of our customers will benefit from day one as we roll out the program, with better coverage, better quality throughout the island. So mobile network modernization is one of the key strategic investments from our side. The second pillar of our investments and focus have been around customer experience. And we have been talking about digitizing customer experience, making it easier. And especially in the business segment, Epic for Business, we've got a dedicated unit for dealing with business clients, and like bigger corporates, but also smaller businesses. And in the past year, we have moved more of our transactions into digital channels. We're answering calls even in the legacy call center within a minute these days, but still more than 1/3 of our actual customer interactions are now happening on digital channels, on email and chat as well. So digitizing, simplifying customer experience has been important for us. And the third pillar of our strategy around investment in infrastructure has been related to broadband services. And today we offer fiber-based broadband services over 50% of the households and businesses in Malta. And we kicked off a project which we call the Fiber Network of the Future, where we actually provide the fastest fiber-based full fiber connectivity with 2 gigabits per second speeds, which enable businesses and households to operate with full speed with multiple devices in the same environment. So, and this is great for even smaller businesses who haven't had the luxury of a business-grade connectivity up until now, but as a smaller or medium-sized business now, they can have the same or similar experience like the large ones through dedicated bandwidth. So, modernizing our mobile network, digitizing the customer experience, and also investing into fixed technologies and broadband has been key pillars of our strategy in the past year.
Okay, Tamas, very interesting, and I'm sure small and medium business owners listening to this and thinking, oh, that's exactly what I need to strengthen my connectivity. So, a fantastic bit of news to have there. And Simon, perhaps you could say, telecommunications within the pandemic has been critical to survival for a number of businesses. How do you think the tourism industry has become more reliant on connectivity in recent years?
Well, the pandemic is one thing, and recent years is another, I would suggest. And as Stanley said, digitization in our industry has been going on for 10, 15 years now, to the extent of transforming the business. If we just focus a little bit on the pandemic, of course, our industry in travel and tourism was the hardest hit. So we went from running at 100 miles an hour to a practical standstill in terms of revenue last March, March of the prior year. And because we operate in many countries, there were some weeks differences, but I mean, certainly by the end of March, beginning of April, we went from the business we were used to almost zero, which, as you can appreciate, is and continues to be quite a shock to the system. On the other hand, Corinthia itself came into the pandemic with a very healthy balance sheet, strong reserves, and above all, an engaged workforce who are willing to, roll up their sleeves. We've had a lot of action taken, even personal sacrifices done entirely across the company to keep the business going. And we are now in a situation of reopening our hotels, depends in which countries. In countries where we have large local markets, like our hotels in Russia or our hotel in London, which depend on British business and Russian business respectively, where you don't need to get on a plane. We're doing well. We're practically full in these places because these countries themselves can't travel, the locals. Now, how did we act in the past year and a half? We ran the business as we did, as everybody did, online. I mean, through a lot of calls like this. The real question to us as hotel owners and operators is, will this impact our future business? Will people stop traveling because they can have a meeting online? I'm not sure that's quite the case. And this really takes me back to the beginning of the internet, when I remember, I forgot his name, the CEO of the Federal Reserve in America used to say, just because things can be done faster now on the internet, it also gives you more time to do other things. So if I look at the fact that there is no need for me to get on a plane, go to Budapest, for example, where we have a hotel, meet our manager and come back, something that would have taken maybe 2 days before to do for a 1-hour meeting. The fact that I can have that same meeting online really and truly gives me a day and a half of work now, which I can do other things and which you can do therefore to grow the business, for which you do need travel. So as always, digitization has never really replaced and made the way we used to do things obsolete. It just makes it more efficient, but gives you, an individual, the opportunity to do so many other things with your time. And therefore, it's a plus for business, not a minus. So, people will still travel. People still want to grow their businesses. Their globalization will continue. And that's sort of on the corporate side. On the leisure side, clearly, you're not going to have a Zoom call to see Paris, right? You want to get on a plane and go and see Paris. So the leisure side, and we can see it already, the minute restrictions are being lifted, people get on a plane and travel, immediately. So I'd also like to say something else, which again goes to the point I'm making. We are currently building 8 hotels around the world, all the way from America to Russia to the Gulf. And obviously, when I say building, in most cases, in some cases, we've actually started construction, like in Brussels and Bucharest, there's actually cranes and people building. In some others, like in Rome and in New York, we're at the design stage. And really, this is quite extraordinary, where we have, my team and our team at Corinthia have bi-weekly meetings with architects in Dubai, project managers in London, and on the screen everybody's looking at the same plan and the same drawing. And what would take quite a lot of time and travel and expense whenever we built our other hotels, it's happening now. But entirely online. to the point of designing the hotel, choosing the colors for the cushions, all the way to the infrastructure and mechanical and electrical. You do hit some limits where at some point, and we've got people who at some point you need to get on a plane and sit down face to face. But a lot of it is being done online, So again, will this change? No, of course not. It's the future, People get used to doing this. But it also means you have more time to do maybe 20 projects at the same time, not just 8. So This is the general point I'm making.
Yeah. I think it's such a great point, isn't it, Simon, around the efficiency, what you said there, the ability to sort of what you need to do online can be done online, whereas everything else you can enjoy.
Yes.
This makes us all more efficient.
And the last point I would like to say on the pandemic issue is this work from home situation. So obviously in our hotels, you can't work from home. The chef needs to be in the kitchen to cook the breakfast, the lunch and the dinner. But as a business, we do have corporate offices in Malta and London and elsewhere where we have, let's say, a corporate setup, our finance teams, our HR teams, marketing. We did work from home for a while in Malta. In London, it's by law. Our teams are still working from home. That's 1 year, 3 months later. And perhaps in Malta, few people appreciate that there are countries, I believe Germany is the same, but certainly our team in London, our corporate team in London, have been at home for 15 months. I mean, it's quite extraordinary, I mean, if you ask those people, would you rather come into the office? My take, and I've asked some other companies in some larger countries, the answer is yes. People tend to live in large cities in much smaller accommodation, which they have to share with partners and children, which doesn't, working from home is not as glamorous as it may be in Malta, where we tend to have larger apartments and homes. Can this go on indefinitely? I don't think so, because from what I've seen in the past 15 months, where you had a team who knew each other for many years in person and had to shift their work as a team online, that works easily because the personal relationships have already been cemented prior. The minute you recruit somebody into that team who they've never met or we've never met physically and spend time, let's call it the water cooler, conversations and family and friends and tastes and likes, it's very difficult to integrate those into a team and also into a corporate culture. Of an organization. So this is why you are seeing around the world, and this as always starts in the large American companies, where they're saying by July, by August, by September, they've actually set dates. Some of the larger banks, for example, you have to come back to the office. I mean, this working from home situation can work, but it does not tick all the boxes.
Yeah.
In our case as Corinthia, we're small enough, with a few hundred employees in corporate jobs to be able to handle this on a personal level because, you start getting into issue of vaccinations and human rights and do I have can we impose this or not impose that? In our case, we're a family-inspired business, so we will treat these on individual cases. But at the end of the day, digitization will make it more efficient, but it cannot replace humanity. At the end of the day, we are humans.
And that's it. It's about leveraging, I think, the opportunities from digitization with our understanding of our needs as humans to be able to create a roadmap that works in the best way possible. So I fully agree with you there, Simon. Thank you for that insight. And speaking of employees, Stanley, if I come to you, how has digitization changed things for your company's team? Just going to ask you to unmute there, Stanley, if possible.
Sorry about that.
Don't worry.
To be honest, we're in a very much similar boat as the hotel industry, in the sense that our frontline people, it's very difficult for them to work from home. If we're talking about the handling people, that is the guys that meet the aircraft and the VIPs at the airport, you cannot meet them from home. You need to be at the airport. If we're talking about the maintenance employees and who are fixing the aircraft, they need to be at the aircraft. We've seen a lot of memes of pilots talking to their passengers saying, "I'm working from home today, you know, welcome on board, I'm working from home." I mean, probably the technology, to be honest, probably the technology is already there. But from a comfort, safety point of view, the industry and the public is not yet ready for that. So again, you know, the pilot needs to be on board. On
Sorry
the corporate,
to stop you, Stanley, the technology is there for the pilot to work from home while flying the plane.
We sent a rover to Mars, didn't we?
I suppose we did. That's a new thought for me. Sorry, Stanley, carry on.
And on the corporate side of things, you know, the management and the financial guys, we're also a global company with offices in Moscow, Paris, Zurich, Stuttgart, Dubai. Definitely it affected a little bit, not a little bit, a lot, the travel. So we're doing a lot more of these boardroom meetings, and people, you know, are working from home in some places. As Simon said, Germany, one of them is they couldn't leave home, so they had to be at home. Until up very recently, I think going forward from here, and the feel from our organization is some kind of hybrid. I think there was eagerness pretty much by every single individual to go back to the office, because there was Zoom fatigue and whatnot. You get tired talking to the screen. There isn't the physical interaction, but going forward, I can see some kind of hybrid where it would be easier for the organization going forward to allow and find ways of the employees, not every single day, but on a regular basis, to do tasks from home, maybe even half the day. Yeah, I'm gonna continue from home later on, kind of thing. And I think the pandemic, if there is one plus thing that we can take out of it, is that it proved that it can work. Like I mentioned earlier, because of our international nature, we were very technologically advanced, if you like. You know, we were all well connected, VPNs and whatnot, well ahead of the pandemic, because it was the only way to conduct our business. But we probably never tested it to this extent, and it worked. That said, do I see it happening every day? No, because the culture, the organization, the people themselves, I don't think they want it. Some sort of hybrid going forward, possibly. And similarly for our clients, I see digitization continuing to make a difference in the cabin development and you know, how fast you can have. I mean, it's already there, to be honest. Like I said, you can literally have this kind of conferences from on board of our airplanes. You know, that kind of interaction on board with the rest of the world, pretty much continuing as if you are flying in your boardroom, essentially, because it is very important for our customers to have that physical interaction.
Yeah.
You can do a lot online, but it doesn't replace the feel. It's a bit like what we used to say in the past. On an SMS, you don't listen to the tone, so you don't know whether they're making a joke, there's a sarcastic, you know, so there's room for misinterpretation. With the online conferencing, it's much less, but it's not the same as being in the same room.
In the same room, absolutely. Very interesting, Stanley. I look forward to having a future boardroom from aboard some kind of private jet. I think that sounds like a great idea for a future edition of the program. Tamas, coming to you for a little bit of insight about Malta in general and the opportunities that you see thanks to connectivity for the island and for business in Malta.
I think we are in a unique situation from Epic's point of view, because Malta in general, I think, has a strong infrastructure in terms of telecommunication, and that's important for businesses. Both Simon and Stanley mentioned the importance of this, not only on the local level, but also connectivity to mainland Europe and beyond to other destinations. And from Epic's point of view, we feel unique here because we've got a very strong international background. We're part of a network of a shareholder who's got unique expertise in small states economies, and Monaco, Cyprus, and Malta is the Mediterranean triangle. But also beyond that, we're present in Switzerland, Ireland, France, and Italy. So we can bring a lot of expertise and international know-how, and that's what we actually put into practice, but with the Maltese businesses in mind, to develop the services that they need. And we know that mobility and local connectivity is critical. But beyond that, for example, we operate our own, we have our own dedicated submarine cable to mainland Europe, and we provide connectivity through multiple routes, and reliability and secure services are also critical and important for businesses, not only who have presence, but who want to do business outside Malta. But I believe we are very well positioned to support all sizes with all sorts of needs in this aspect.
Thank you, Tamas. And I'll stay with you just for a little bit of insight into what you think the short-term future will look like for digitization. You know, in the connectivity sector, what can we look forward to changing short-term?
I think the future is happening now. So as we've seen, I think digitization is not about the future anymore. It's about living it and making the right decisions and enabling the organizations and businesses today. And in terms of technology, we see both fixed technologies and mobile technologies evolve. As I mentioned, we are running a full network modernization program in Malta, which brings the latest of all technologies to make them more efficient. Of course, we've had an award-winning network with 2G, 3G, and 4G, but today we can get better equipment, so we can provide better service even on the old technologies to customers. And the same thing on broadband networks. It is time to bring more competition. It's time to bring better service to consumers. And this is why we started to build the fiber network of the future, where actually we bring unprecedented speeds and both on the upload and download side, and also the security element is critical. So when we talk about business connectivity and bandwidth, things like DDoS attacks and cybersecurity issues, which may not have been in focus in the past years, now are on every CEO or CTO's agenda today, because we know that we want to be prepared. So we see our role of evolving even as from a telecommunication company to a technology company, which can partner and support our clients and businesses who trust us, understanding their needs and helping them unlock their potential to providing the right technology and not just bit 5 solutions.
Okay, Tamas, very interesting. Thank you. And Simon, coming to you now for a little bit of insight into maybe what the future of digitization in the hospitality industry could look like.
First of all, I'd like to welcome what Tamas just said, because I mean, these were already things we were looking at pre-pandemic, right? The pandemic, I think, has just accelerated thinking more than changed thinking. But artificial intelligence is one area we were looking at and managing to use all the data we have on our customers or potential customers and transform that into uses such as marketing and rate setting. Things like cybersecurity, which we take very seriously. Obviously, we hold data of many customers, and so that's something we have been working on. So it's good to hear that there is a company in Malta which comes from a technology background that is looking at these areas, because inevitably we've been looking internationally for advice on these areas. So it's good to hear that. In terms of the future, think of any business 30 years ago, right? I'm old enough. I was working 30 years ago, so I'm old enough to see that before digitization really took hold of our lives. And think of how our lives on a daily basis has changed, and how therefore we travel has changed as part of that. In all areas, in the health, in the way our hospitals, in our schooling, in our travel, and think 30 years ahead, and where will we be? I mean, there are things that you would have never even imagined in 1980 that are happening today, or 1990 that are happening today. So we have to accept, and really and truly my personal view is that we are really at the beginning of a massive revolution. We're just at the beginning. In 30 years time, in 50 years time, people will be looking at today and saying, oh, they were just at the beginning. It's like when man invented the steam engine, yeah? And then we had rocket ships within 100 years or a bit after. So the key to thinking is to be sure you're one step, at least, if not one step ahead, at least up to date with what's happening. Because I always look to my children, really, you know, and you can see a difference. The way a 12-year-old actually thinks today, the way their brain is wired, and the way they have the relationships with friends, and the way they are learning, and what they are learning, and the capacity to absorb information is so completely different, even to a 25-year-old, let alone to a 40-year-old, a 50-year-old, or an 80-year-old, you know. So all you have to think is that 12-year-old's way of thinking is going to be the norm in 10 years' time. And even then, he will be soon or she will be soon outdated, because there's really nothing to fear. Man will get better, will live longer, will live healthier. We are 100 years ago, we were poorer, we lived shorter, we had more wars. So, you know, I'm an eternal optimist, but it is the truth. Digitization will accelerate this future ahead of us and give us more time to be humans. That's the core part of how I see it. And therefore, in our industry, we've got to learn how to take that in all areas of what we do.
Lovely to hear that.
Perhaps a bit philosophical answer.
No, just what we needed, I think. A lovely ability, Simon, there to walk that line again between the stark coldness sometimes of technology and the critical human side of it as well. So very exciting to think what could be in our future.
Yeah. Technology made it possible to call up your relatives in Australia, 50 years ago. So that's maybe the telephone may be a cold item, but it brought people together. It didn't certainly push people apart.
Absolutely. And Stanley, with that all in mind, what is the future of digitization then as we look to the aviation industry?
Something quite interesting in this boardroom conversation today is that we're all about connectivity, actually. So you know, Tamas is in the digital side of things. We actually connect people from physically from A to B, and Simon looks after you once you are away from your principal place of business, you know, kind of thing. And I'm also an eternal optimist. I think going forward, the industry, the aviation industry, will continue to excel, because we cannot do it any other way. As it gets faster, we need help. We need AI. We need to deal with the technological advancement. But that would allow us to do things better, to fly greener, to fly more efficiently, fly differently, doing more from home, maybe even fly people from A to B while sitting on your sofa. But all of this makes it all more cost effective. So overall, more beneficial for the planet as well. Short term, the aviation industry because of its connection to the hospitality industry, we're kind of probably move at similar speeds. You already can book your flights, you know, on your phone and things like that. Post-pandemic, we're talking about green passports and digital certificates on your phone. I think that will continue to evolve. The phones will get better, even though it looks like difficult at the moment. We all remember the big bulky things that we used to carry around, but they will get better. They will be able to do more things, and you know, it just makes it easier to transact business. From a business aviation point of view, we're a little bit more traditional because and conservative. We're moving CEOs and whatnot. We're very security conscious and all kinds of stuff. So it's a little bit difficult to convince people that it's safe to, I don't know, book a flight on their phone. But I think going forward, as the technology, like I said, becomes better, and it is probably already there, but that we become better at convincing the older generation that the technology is secure, is safe, and they can book a flight on their phone. We will see a lot more of that happening, where you can book a business jet and pay that business jet and monitor the flight on your phone, pretty much like the airlines already are doing. The numbers are a little bit bigger, so people are a little bit more conscious, but otherwise I think the technology is there, and we'll see a lot more of that in the short term. In the long term, like Simon said, I think it's not, no pun intended, but the sky's the limit, literally from a technology point of view, and you know, it's gonna get better thanks to organizations like Tamas, and Tamas is already Epic is already helping us getting there. And from a Maltese, purely from a Maltese perspective, being an international brand based in Malta, I think we have all the right infrastructure, digital know-how to see us through, you know, the years.
Absolutely. Thank you, Stanley. And Tamas, I mean, we're hearing so many exciting things from this conversation. How can other business owners get ready to take advantage of these developments?
I think from Epic's side, our general brand promise to all segments is great network and great value together. However, for businesses, we have a dedicated unit, Epic for Business, where actually our mission is to understand what businesses need in today's world. And although we've been around for 30 years and a lot of businesses have trusted with us with their support, which we're grateful for, we see that we have to change and we have to understand them, where they want to go in the future, and therefore we are happy to help with full solutions and not just the basic connectivity needs, as I mentioned this before. So we're bringing the international know-how through Epic Business, and we support businesses through their own journeys of digitization, whether this is about getting some quick wins and short-term gains, or whether this is building strategic capabilities. Our mission is to also have the thinking process, and we're sure that Malta has the right foundations to enable international businesses and local businesses as well to expand.
Okay. Thank you, Tamas. And to ask all of you now, as we sort of wrap up our conversation today, you know, speaking to the other business owners or business people watching in your sectors or in general, what would be your tip for leveraging digitization in the most efficient and effective way possible? Stanley, I'll come to you first.
I think it's difficult and easy at the same time, kind of an oxymoron, but we need to think outside the box. As an aviation person, we're organizing a Malta Aviation Conference and Expo in September, like Simon said, in October rather. Like Simon said, our industry, the hospitality travel industry, is the one that suffered most during the pandemic, potentially. and there are lessons that could be learned. So if I have to give a bit of an advice, we need to think outside the box. We need to see how we can take advantage of the digitization. And you know, I also have been working for more than 30 years, so I'm getting a little bit old, and my brain is potentially wired in a different way to the younger generation. So, you know, we need to have the guts, if you like, to ask the younger generation and listen to their thinking outside the box of how we can improve our industry through digitization. That's kind of my 2 pence worth.
Fantastic. Thank you, Stanley. Simon, what are your thoughts there? Any tips?
I would agree to what Stanley just said and listen to the younger people. They are the future. So if you want to be present in the future, just listen to the younger people. And your role really is to make sure that whatever one is embracing, and the more we embrace and use technology, the better, because it makes us all that more efficient. Our role is to make sure we retain the values of the business, yeah, in that future, because the values are what keeps the business strong and unique and different to any other business around it. So my tip for anybody is, don't be afraid of technology, certainly not, and I don't think anybody is nowadays, but on the contrary, embrace it and take it to the next level.
Okay. Thank you very much, Simon. Great tip there as well. And finally, Tamas, over to you for your tip and perhaps anything else you'd like to say to wrap up today's boardroom.
Thank you, Joe. So I think on the digitization and how to start, I think first of all, number one is start from the consumer or your customer, because I think staying close to the customer journey or the experience of our customers, whatever your business is the starting point. And then I see 3 layers of things which can be digitized. There are journeys which can be improved very quickly. There are some without any technology investment, just fixing cracks in the process of how the current tools can be used. Then there are quick investments which can be turned within a short time frame. But then there's also a strategic layer when you have to make the decisions now and invest now in order to be able to leverage it even in 12 to 24 months time. So the time is now to act, to decide on all these 3 layers. And to conclude from Epic's point of view, we see our role in this environment as an enabler. We see our network as a critical component of the success of businesses in Malta and beyond to support them on the digital journey. And we see the need to step up our game. And this is why we're investing heavily into our mobile network modernization, investing into fixed network infrastructure. And we also have to tell the story. And we are actually starting a campaign and communication on this soon about the network of the future, what Epic is building today, starting and building on the strength of the past, which we have had, but taking it to the next level to basically help businesses in Malta to unlock their full potential.
That's great. And that's what it all comes down to, isn't it? Unlocking the full potential for consumers. So thank you all for giving us great insight there into how your businesses have not only coped during this time of change, but also leveraged digitization to really thrive. And great to hear your stories. And Tamas, of course, thank you for bringing everyone together for this great conversation about connectivity. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, as always, to our viewers at home or in the office. It's been great having you with us on The Boardroom, and we look forward to seeing you next time.